things became a little tougher in Reed already. We were not allowed to go out except when we was go in groups or to go a specific farm to work.
So Reed was a work camp, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it was called the Rookwanderlager?
Not Rookswan, Ausländerlager. I cannot remember any Rookwander. Maybe parents, but I have, even the word, the expression, I have not.
Okay.
But allow me, I was not familiar with the German language either. I learned it fast because I had no choice. Through the Swedish and the Yiddish, you know, I managed early enough because I remember when we left Reed, which was, I don't know, over a year, I think we were a year or 4 months or 6 months. When we left, people at the, at the side of the road from Reed, that as we walk into the train station, they were talking to us in German, and I could understand them, because they said, why are you leaving now? Why don't you stay here with us? But we were not allowed to do anything than go to the train station. Of course, there was a whole regiment that was going to the train station. So, but I could not read or write, no, because there was even more so because there was the Gothic alphabet, and that I never able to learn it because.
The sequence of events, the father.
Yes.
Yeah.
When now your brother died and your father still wasn't in Reed, correct?
Not at that time, yes.
Okay,
Shortly after.
Talk about when your father got back.
Well, yeah, he came with a bunch of men. I say a bunch, but a group of other men. Also, that had family that in Reed. So I remember he came with that group. A bus brought the bus stopped at the gate, and then they each had their bundle. But everything that was loaded into the wagon, Lyova, nothing, not even not a crumb that father had with him when he came. Nothing. Everything he said in Galatz they had to give up. Yeah, I think it was another city, but near Galatz. Had to give up everything. Just the wagon, how it was loaded. They were allowed to take a few things, what they were able to carry, but it was minimum. And then I think
with your two older brothers.
Yeah, they were together. And how they took, did they come by train or by boat? I cannot recall now. Did they get a boat in Galatz? I do not know. How they came in, I do not even know how they found us, but I'm sure we were recorded, and where that family was and where that other family was. And so all those that have told their names and so on, so they were brought to that specific camp.
Where was the father and the brothers during the time before they came to you?
I do not know.
You don't know what he was
No,
doing?
I think they were in Czechoslovakia.
Ah.
Yeah, for quite some times. Because father came and brothers still did not come. Father came alone when he arrived. Brothers came several months after. I do not know when and how they came. But suddenly they were there, and then they just stayed a few days and they were taken away. There was always said to dig trenches. That was the Schanzengraben, dig trenches. That was the answer. Who knows? I didn't know why they needed trenches. So father was more often with us than the brothers. But he was taken away occasionally for a few weeks, and then brought back, and then a few days and a few months. He was, and then mother and sister were taken away. So there was a time I was all by myself. I was the king there. All the strong ones were beating me up, and then so
Do you know where they were taken and what they were doing when they were away?
No, no, no. I do not know.
Well, this might be a good time to talk about your father's map that he had done while he was in.
Yeah. Well, that was also during that time, because I have never seen that map, that street map of Lyova. But since there were bunk beds, I slept on the upper part, of course, and parents were sleeping on the lower part with sister. And when the three brothers were there, no, the two brothers, so we were three on the tops, the joint beds. And he said that he was told to draw a map, or a street map, of the streets of Lyova, with all the important buildings. And of course, mother questioned back and forth, but he said they wanted it. It was serious business. We, of course, I did not know, but in reality, I understood later on. They wanted to know the streets of Lyova and the important buildings because they had in mind to come back. I mean, the German, that's what I say. I said they had in mind to come back, I mean, to retake Bessarabia. Now, that's what I deduct later and today. At that time, I had no knowledge of or notion. So that was the most that I can say that I could hear. And so, of course, father was taken away, and where and what he could not tell us, or maybe he told mother, but I never knew. You know.
And how long was he away for?
At that time, I think it was 3 weeks. And at that specific time, when I heard that statement. And I heard when he came back that what he did, he said, I did the drawings, etc. And it seems like they had a airplane view of the city, and they were making comparison and to know if father did right or he was misleading them. They were very much concerned about that. But apparently he did it. He did it the best he knew. Well, he lived in Lyova from the age of 7, so he knew the town. He knew how it became bigger and bigger, you know.
And the names on the map that are identified, were those the people that your father knew the most, or were they certain people he was writing the names of on the map?
I think these were people that he was asked that left Lyova. I think so. I have never seen them, so, but I think because one seems to be a relative, and of course the Sokolovs are on, and there's a Kissinger's also on. The Zhukov was on, but the Gutkis are not on, because they did not go. And she ended up in Siberia with 5 children. The oldest was 10 years old, was my age. So, and they were not together. The husband was separate from the family all through the years. And he was allowed to go back to Germany because his brother was in Germany when he was released. And then his family joined him in Germany. That's why she was allowed to go after 15 years. Working on farms, the whole was working on farms. You know. And she said also, the first 2 years were hard, much harder, but then they survived because they were gleaning here and there. So, and on land they always have more chances than working in a factory. Yeah. In general, that's how it goes.
What else do you want to tell me about what happened in Reed and life in Reed?
In Reed, we were not allowed to go out after we came in from the farms. But some of us, the younger one, they tried. First they climbed over the fence or the wall, then they put a coil of barbed wire, and then we get underneath. Then they put a coil of barbed wire on the ground, and then they put small explosives in the little tunnels that we did dig under the walls. All those things. If I may, allow me to tell you just a little one of the little stories, and it's a good finishing. The others I prefer not to tell sometimes. I went out. I only remember one fellow that had his two fingers cut off from a small explosive. They were hiding them under the dirt, and so, but that fellow, he put his hand right on the capsule, right on the explosive, and that cut him off. But then we had a second one hitting the ground and moving a few feet and doing again, so to be sure that we were having all the little explosive to explode before we put our hands or crawl into it. I did it. So I got through that tunnel, and then I walked through a portion to the woods and came to a street, and it was still, the sun was just on, sundown, almost at the end. But I still some few people that walk in any direction. But I saw a lady pulling a little cart loaded with hay. And where I was, it was somewhat upward, the road. And I was hiding behind the bushes, and I waited until that lady came just at my height. And she was almost bended in two there, pulling that cart because it was upward. And so when she passed me, I walked out and went behind that cart, and slowly I start pushing so that she would not tip on her nose or face, and start pushing. And when she felt the difference, she looked back, and I should say she rewarded me with a smile. When we got up on the hill, we stopped, and she said she has 2 goats. If I would like to come and see her goats, and I agreed to it. So then we were both pulling the cart, in front. I remember she had a very short skirt and long blonde hairs. And I was thinking even the seamstress do not have enough material to make a decent dress. So we got to her place. I saw the goats, and so we unloaded, and then she invited me inside the house and offered me a bowl of goat milk with pieces of bread broken, into the milk. And as I was eating, she said, she asked me, when was it the last time did you had a meal? Probably I was eating or swallowing like a crocodile there. So I said, my answer was, this evening we got our rations. And she was somewhat shaking her head. And then she started talking, saying things about herself. And she said that just before the war started, she got married. And when the war started, her husband was drafted into the army. And he said it's just about 5 weeks she received the news that her husband became a casualty of war. And then she made comments of her own, and she said, I remember vaguely a few high points, that she said, our leaders, they want to prepare a better future, a great future and a long future. But at what a price, she said, what a price. I remember she also mentioned the word offering, which means offering. And she said, an offering that leaving an open wound that is not healing. So at that point she started to become emotional, though she tried to subdue her emotions, but she did not succeed. She did cry, she did not succeed. And then I was about finished, and she said she had some carrots in her garden. So we went outside, and the carrots were still in the ground, so we did some digging and broke the leaves, the green stuff off, and I put it in my shirt, the carrots. And it was already dark at that time. So I took off. So I went I retrieved the same way, road that I came, so not to get lost, because I couldn't go across the woods totally, otherwise I would have been lost. So I went exactly the way I came. But when I came to the crawl space with the carrots, it was too much. The hole was too small, so I had to take the carrots out and pushing the carrots in front of me, and with a stake first I was tapping the ground and pushing the carrots and then pulling myself through, and until I was on the other side, and filled the hole with leaves and branches, and put the carrots back under my shirt and back to the building, and there were some individuals outside. They saw that I had something in my shirt, and they just pulled the shirt out, and the carrots were all spread on the ground. And they were just throwing themselves on the carrots like a vulture on a colony of what's the name of those?
Oh, carcass?
No, those little animals that run in the prairies. Prairie dogs, like prairie dogs. And so I had no carrots, but then there were some from the same room where I was, and I could hear in the dark, chewing their carrots, or my carrots, but they were not mine anymore. But you see, I had a good meal this evening. They were hungry too, so I comfort myself in that way. And
did you go back to find the woman again? You
no,
where she lived?
yeah, but I never went back. No, because if it would have been found out that she did that to me, she would have been arrested. I said we have to be careful. She knew who I was, but never questioned me. She saw. I mean, that she even asked me where did I learn the German, because I was getting along, not too bad, And I said that we were not allowed to speak any other language than German. She was maybe in her 20s or so, quite young. And I was 10 at that time. But to say people were nice. In general, they preferred taking off than going than coming, because some reminded us that we were coming but eating their bread, though they were doing their work, because their men were all at war, and we were doing all the manual work. And that also, where the farmers were telling us that their children were, had physical defects, and they were taken away, and then they received letters that their children died, and they thought they were the only one, but then they found out the other families went through that same system, and so they realized that it was not untrue. It was not true that what they were told, that the children were taken away to eliminate, so that they would have just a strong, good race of humans. No sickness, no.
So this was in Reed, with the
that was still in Reed, yeah.
And so there were no disabled children or disabled people in Reed or in Germany?
Maybe there were, but not that I've seen. I just say what those farmers lady were sharing with us, because they were talking about their own experience of what happened there, and they thought they were their own, but then they found out that other families from Reed had similar experiences or similar letter, and they say, well, that's the same thing. I received the same thing, just the name changed, the same stamp, official letters. that the child died for some reason, you know. So they realized that it was not all rosy, even whatever was promised. The adults, they catching up quicker than the young people. It took them a little longer, the younger people.
So you were in Reed for how long?
Well, I think a year and a half the maximum, I think so.
And then, so
I had
this
to
was
make-
from like
To 41, end of 41.
until the end of 41.
Yeah, I do not know about that. And then we went to Poland, to Tuschenwald. Yeah, that was in Poland then.
Tuschenwald. Tuschenwald is a camp?
Yes.
What
The-
kind of camp?
Well, there were several houses, but several houses. So we were somewhat in each house, you know, according to the rooms. They were bigger or smaller. I remember one was a two-story, but I remember only one. The others were all only one story. But no heating, food was very scarce.
But you were farming there too?
No, we were working outside. No, yeah, to answer your question, yes. We were also taken to work on farms. Going in the morning and coming back in the evening. But it was the adult group and there was a children group. I was always with the children group, you see. So we were, we had, I should say, less responsibility, but like picking the potatoes. Children were much more faster than old people. Old people were carrying the sacks, bringing the wagon, loading, and all the children were picking. Older people were digging them out and spreading. The children were picking up. You see, it was divided according to our you know, we were somewhat divided. Also, children had to walk separate from the adults. Walking here, that group marches 5 in a row. Children, they did not keep 5 in a row. They were mixed very shortly after they started.
Who were you with in this camp? I mean, were you with your parents and?
Yeah, in Reed still, but in Tuschenwald at the beginning maybe a few weeks, but then no.
Where did they go?
I don't know. They were taken away. I think father came back twice. But brothers, one brother never came back. But they were also always on farms also. Yeah, because they had to work with horses a lot. I also had to work with horses already, but I was somewhat on a younger still age. So I was more a helper than leader. But they were older. They had more responsibilities.
Where was your mother at the time?
My mother, she was with us.
Oh, your mother and your sister?
Yeah, and
were with
sister,
you?
yeah. Mother and sister were, not always, but in general, they were with us, yeah. The ladies, they were taken doing repairing clothing, repairing shoes. Some men also had to do the repairing shoes because, you know, we had no new shoes. The old one had to always be repaired the best. And then they were given wood shoes, like, you know, the kind that have in the Netherlands and Holland, that kind. They were quite good. You must, you know, they were quite good. So otherwise, we had no leather shoes, no, or rubber shoes. Now we had always, or many times, wet feet. That was sometimes no shoes at all.
Oh, so you went barefoot? I hope not.
Yeah, well, I remember I had rags on around my feet because when they get
summer
wet.
or the winter?
Winter, summer was barefoot, but things get wet. Walk on the snow, how long it gets wet, and then we're hanging them overnight, and then they were not dry in the morning, and start all over.
Who were the other people who were housed in this camp? Who were the other inmates or whatever? Who were the other residents of this camp?
Most Polish.
Poles, okay.
Poles.
But were they Polish Jews? Were they Polish?
I think so, because I've seen other buildings and they had all the Ten Commandments in Yiddish, in Hebrew, I should say.
Right.
I recognize the writing. I cannot read it, but I recognize
Okay.
the letters at their door.
Mm-hmm.
So through that, I deduct that they were.
So at this point, when you left Reed, you had been identified as Jewish,
In,
or no?
to say we ourselves did not admit that we were Jewish,
Okay.
that we were Schwabish, but we were treated as Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know other places had a little better food. Even Polish were mistreated, quite a bit mistreated.
Mm-hmm.
But even Polish, I know in Lodz, we were in the camp. There were wooden camp barracks,
Mm-hmm.
lined up in long, many.
So you were in Lodz as well?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
From Tushenwald from Lodz is not far. I mean, maybe an hour or two with the train, something like that. I don't remember, maybe 2 hours or more or less. And the street cars, Lodz had street cars to move the people back and forth, and they were all painted black. The windows, excuse me, because they were passing by on an elevation of the Jewish camp. So the people that are in a tramway could not see the camp of the Jewish. The people and the buildings and what goes on. Yeah, that I remember, because we were looking in the tramway, and you can see it was all painted black, and we could see no humans' faces or that nobody could see. Here and there, between the wagons, we could, occasionally we saw a person, a human, but that was probably an employee, who knows. But so even the regular people were not allowed or could not see into the camp. And I think food was, it always started with that, because wherever there's a lot of people together there, food becomes scarce. In the morning we got a hot tea, a bowl of tea, which was good, but the tea was made of pine needle, so it was very beautiful color, greenish color, and I like that color, but bitter. So we could warm our hands. That was good.
Did it have any calories, or it doesn't sound like it?
Hmm?
Did it have any calories, any energy, or it was just
I don't know.
just got you a little warm?
It warmed us up.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was bitter. Calorie, I do not know if there's any calorie in pine needles. I do not know.
Not much. Okay.
And with had 2 slices of bread. Yeah. And
were you in the Jewish ghetto of Lodz then?
and not the ghetto, what you call the Polish ghetto. No, they were taken out from the Polish ghetto, and they were brought where we were, in Tushenwald and Lodz. But in Lodz, it was barracks. It was not a Jewish ghetto, because Jewish ghetto is where they were living before the war started. But here, this was cleared out. There were no more Jews in there. The Jews were all taken into the camp. So we were with Jews, yes, that here in I say Loda almost, in Lodz, and in Tushenwald was something similar. There were in Tushenwald there were buildings. Here in Lodz were barracks. That's the difference. In Tushenwald we were more scattered. And but it was scattered. I know we were not allowed to cut any trees, to hit, to warn. We were punished severely if a tree was cut. But we were allowed to dig out root stumps. So with what? With bare hands, We had no tools for that. I know, that's what we were allowed to. You see, you can get the stump, but no trees. They were punished. Because it was cold. It was cold, It's cold. With no heat, not much blankets either. And mattresses were made of straw. And there were mattresses that were extra, so we put on the top of us. So it helped, it helped. And then crawl together the most, creating heat of ourselves during the night,
So what else happened in Lodz, or where did you go on from Lodz? Do you have other stories to tell us about from Lodz or in Tuschenwald?
From Tuschenwald, it took us farther up in Poland.
Which was first, Lodz or Tuschenwald?
Tuschenwald, Lodz, and back Tuschenwald.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. So we were longer in Tuschenwald in my case. Others maybe not, but in my case. So much longer. But then you asked for Tuschenwald where?
Yeah. What did you?
It was in the area of Gdansk.
From the north.
Yeah, what was called the peninsula, Helau Peninsula, or Hell, Peninsula Hill. That's farther north than Gdansk. They called it Danzig at that time. And there there were barracks. We had to make trails that were maybe 1 meter wide, I would say, cutting through the woods, into the woods. There were lines, first with a pick, they were scratching the lines. It was easy, it was a lot of roots, but it was more sand, so it was easy to dig. But the roots would have to cut off, so the roots. But I did not know from whom they needed so many trails. But then after, that's where the German army was squeezed into that island, and then whoever was able to escape by boat from because there were ships that were able to land at Helau. So we had to do that for quite some times.
Mm-hmm.
And then
how long were you digging trails, making trails?
Well,
About?
Yeah, a few months.
Okay.
Because some of us, they were taken away and we were left there. Then we were taken also, some others remained. So I do not know what happened to those. But we were taken to Berlin by a few stops in between. And Berlin, I saw Berlin burning, all I can say. The bombs, day and night, and they apparently never stopped.
So this was towards the end of the war?
Yeah, that was 43, 44. Excuse me. The landing was 44, but we were already 43. Berlin, I think in December, something like that, December 43, we got to Berlin, and we were in Berlin, and from Berlin we went near Strasbourg, a town Santa Volt.
What did you do in Berlin?
Cleaning streets.
Oh, okay.
Well, not more than streets. All caves, all cellars, basement, wherever some people could fit in, we had to clean them out. Because, the buildings were destroyed and some other were saved, in creating shelters.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the main occupation. That was a tough time. You could never sleep, always. And Then from there we went to near Strasbourg.
And what did you do there?
Well, on farm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was on farm. That was again out, though air raids was every night also, because it seems like that the airplanes flew just across wherever we were. And I know one day we were outside, and it was a potato field. It was about June, because we were just covering the potato, of dirt, so that and picking up the dory force, the potato eat the leaves, the bugs that eat the potato leaves, etc. We were working outside, and planes were just flying over us, continuously. Actually we were not allowed to stop anything unless we became the exact target. Then we were allowed to crawl ourselves, make ourselves at least possible as a target. But I remember they had put on my back a container of water mixed with some chemicals to spray the potatoes. And so with the left hand I was pumping, and the right hand I was spraying the potatoes, and I was going from row to row. And suddenly I hear on the other end where I started, there were three of them doing something else. They were screaming, shouting at me, and I didn't know what they were shouting. And they shout, and they say, look up there, look up. And I just tumbling, an airplane was in flame, tumbling just about me. And then he shifted maybe 200 or 300 feet on the side like that, all in one frame. Mm-hmm. And the time I looked up, I saw I was coming, tumbling, and shifted on the side. And of course I threw myself on the ground because it was too heavy. Once I had it on, I was able to walk, but I could not put it on myself or taking it off. But I threw myself on the ground and took the belts off, and I could see all parachutes coming down. Like full moon, several full moons coming down. They're coming down. And then in a no time, I don't know, short time, there was a truck of military. They were coming, a German military coming on, and running all the bushes all over, and running with their guns and taking all the parachutes prisoners. And I saw them coming down, and the velocity come down, everything, all the little details. And so they took them prisoners, and then they brought them all to a group. And there was a German officer, and he was searching them, each one after the other. He was searching them, and we were allowed to watch. I'm amazed. We were allowed. I think they were allowed us to watch so we can see how they treat the prisoners. And the military, they treat it with a military dignity. I can say, once the individual is prisoner, I could say the war is over, because the prisoner had to show everything, their guns, their knives, the parachutes. They had all those things with them. They had to show everything, and everything was taken away and thrown on a pile in the middle there. But their personal, their wallet, the picture, the letters, was all handed back, without any saying. It was just handed back. So I can still see that those gesture from the officer, always handing back. And I think I give some credit on that one. They treated. They go to fight and do have to go to fight, but when the fight is over, it's done. They treated us human beings. Then it was in June. It was in June, month of June. It was hot. It was a hot day. And now a little bit personal. I say a little fellow when I tell the stories to others, but you will know who it was. Almost said I. One young fellow said, the prisoners are thirsty, they need water, addressing the German officer and those that were with him, of which the German officer responded, they should have stayed home. They would have had water. Die hätten soll zu Hause bleiben, hätten sie Wasser bekommen. You see, I can say in both language. And shortly after, one of the prisoners, he threw something backwards in my direction. And of course, you had to be careful anything, so I made a gentle movement and I put my hand, my foot on it, and scratched my ankle and picked it up. And I thought it was a pocket watch, though it was a compass. And
Do you still have the compass?
yes,
Oh, you'll have to show it to us.
and I don't know what happened. I showed it to others and it disappeared, but I had that compass still a few years here in the States.
Why don't we,
One question, what town did this take place in? Do you know the name of the
This
town?
is I think Santa Volt, that was near Strasbourg.
How do you spell that?
ST, Santa, like St. Helena,
Right.
something AVOLD, Santa Volt, or Santa Volt.
so Strasbourg, what happened with Strasbourg? Was that sort of shortly after that was liberation, or?
Strasbourg, we arrived in 44 and were liberated in 45.
So you were there for quite a while.
Yes, and that was working on land in the fields, almost in the fields, in the fields, and that's where Stanko was hit and so on. There every day. The planes were flying over, and sometimes they were shooting, sometimes not. But we were civils, so we were workers, so we always considered that they were not shooting, but sometimes they did it anyway. There, well, that we were in barracks.
This was in Strasbourg?
Yes, we were in barracks, but on the same property. There was a fence around a big fence. I mean, a big piece of property. There was a big house, a big building, made of bricks. Our barracks were made of wood planks, and that building had white, big windows, sprinkled with white paint. Double doors, trucks could drive in, close the door and drive out, and inside they were loading or unloading, and nobody knew what was going on. The order was that whoever will be seen near that building will be shot on sight. This was meaning, it was serious. If anyone was, it was the last time they were seen. But one day a fellow by the name of Vasily, he told me that he heard that there were machines in that building. Machines. What kind of machines? Machines. Though, we were young in our naive mind, probably, we deducted that where there are machines, there must be belts to drive those machines. So we decided to find out. Also, I have to mention that that building was hit by a bomb on one side. So there was a gap, was patched up with loose bricks, stones, and mud, and so on. So it was just patched up. So we decided to find out, and we got to that.
Why did you want the belts?
To hold our pants. We had no belts for our pants. Thank you. Yeah, we needed pants. We needed pants too, of course, but belts also. And so we pulled a few bricks away and created a hole and crawled through. We were slim, we passed any cracks at that time. And inside we saw those spotlights to shine on enemy airplanes during the night. And they were all very nicely lined up, one side by side. And there were anti-aircraft machine guns also, with each one 4 shooters also lined up, and then a lot of stuff, military stuff, boxes of ammunition, boxes with guns, everything. Just very. The alleys were narrow. We were just walking, looking. Even stretchers were also piled up there, and we, admiring everything there. And suddenly we heard a noise that the door somebody was coming in. So we climbed into the attic, and at the opposite end, at the gable, there was an opening, and I got there first. And as I came to the edge, I looked how to get down the quickest possible, because this was the second floor. And there was a shout to stop, which I did. He was aiming at that opening, ready to empty his cartridge. And he asked, it was a guard, he asked, how many are there? Because he was hiding behind a tree, I didn't see him. And I answered him 2. He said the other one to show himself, so Vasily showed himself, so we were both standing side by side. And already they had a ladder against the wall, against the building. Another guard was coming up, with his left hand, and the right hand he was holding his rifle, and his right elbow coming up the ladder at the speed of a turtle. When this happened, the one that was coming up the ladder, he backed down, and he too took a distance from the building and aiming at us. And so I say we were invited, but we were actually ordered to come down the ladder, which was nice, was better than jumping. So when we were down, he said, you go to the wall and do not look back. In reality, we knew that verdict at that time more than I know it today, because others had preceded us that had done less dumb things than what we did. Some got punished just by spitting into the direction of a guard and sending them to hot places. Then they were saying the devil should get you. Here they said go to hell. But anyway, I call it hot places. Or getting into a fist fight with a guard. It happened seldom, but it did happen, yeah. And so of course they were eliminated right away. And so we were walking, and the 2 guards were walking behind us, quite close, not far, maybe 15 feet or so. I don't know exactly, but short, close by. And we were just coming out to the wall, and there we hear a noise, a loud noise. Was nice! That was the noise. It was the commandant of the camp in his black uniform asking what was going on. So the 3 got into conversation. They even mentioned that we came from 2 different directions. That was suspicious, So they talked, and suddenly the commandant ordered us to turn around, because we were standing facing the wall. He ordered us to turn around, omdrehen. So we turned around, and we're facing. I was thinking, wow, now we will be shot as aggressors, not as runaway. And I have to admit, what I was thinking before I got to the wall, allow me to say something. What I was thinking, because I have seen others, they were shot and they did not die right away, and for quite hours they twisted in agony. They were not killed, they were just had to die on their own. I decided, or I was thinking, I will try to remain standing as long as possible. That was what I was thinking. I did not know if I would have made it, but to stand, because as long as the individuals were standing, they were keeping on shooting. As soon as they crumbled to the ground, the shooting stopped. And they were not always dead, or they didn't die right away. Anyway, So the commandant, after he ordered us to turn around, he ordered us to come back. So we came back. So you can visualize the two guards and the two of us, and the commandant in between. And he started to give us a lecture. And you mean, this was a lecture. You know, it's a black uniform, so you know from what kind of army he was. Well, those that were wearing the black uniform. And he started pacing back and forth. He was pacing faster, and all of a sudden, and he telling us that we were just Schweinehunde. That's his.
Schweinehund,
Yeah, that's
pig dog.
a pig dog, and one word was pig dog. They tried to cross the two. It was not good for food or not good for watching the house either. So they gave up. But they did some trying on that. Anyway, and that we were just there to eat their bread. That one also repeated to us. And I was thinking to myself, I didn't put myself here. I didn't put, I was still a youngster. And so he was walking back and forth, enraged like a tiger in a cage, you might say. And then one time, he came back behind us, and he kicked me. Of course, you know that I didn't appreciate that, but anyway, he kicked me. And the military boots, they had metal plates on their toes and metal plates on their heels, their boots. So the boots will not wear out so fast. And he hit me so strongly because I collapsed. And Vasily picked me up or helped me to get to the barracks. And that was the end on that day for us. But what I remember over the years, I had good friends, nice friends, and occasionally they reminded me to straighten up when I walk, because I have one shoulder that's lower than the other. I don't brag about, as long nobody knows, they do not know, and I pass much easier than if I have to give them some explanation. Yeah, so that's about that story.
So, do you want to tell us about liberation?
Yeah, liberation. We were in the house, in the basement that I was. There were other people with me, but no parents or nobody family. I was by myself here. The house got 17 cannon, how you call it, shells. 17. I counted them myself. 17. We were in the basement.
This is in Strasbourg.
Yeah, near Strasbourg. It was somewhat a little town, but they had a military garnison, military station. So it was, for the airplane, was important to bomb and to shoot and set out to take. And we were there. It was shooting occasionally, but when the front was coming and the Germans were backing away, that was during the night that happened, because we were in the basement, shuddering. Any time it could crumble or whatever. And it was in the morning. One man, a civil man, came. I don't know from where he came. Was he from our camp or was he from the village? Because we were separate houses but separate from the village inhabitants, you see. And I don't know who he was, but he came with two American soldiers that were following. He was coming down the steps and they were following him, all with the rifles, it was war, and they did not know where he was leading them. And we were all round eyes, looking at the Americans. And, in my mind, I can only say what I was. Finally, it was finally, finally, it's over, finally. And so we were somewhat not doing nothing specific during that time. Food, and the army had some food. They gave us some food.
So he took you away somewhere?
No, not right away.
Okay.
No, we stayed in that basement another week at least, or at least, if not more. Yeah, because the German was shooting out this way, and so.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and I know I was outside the house, and the cannon, and the shells were coming. And the American, they were always throwing themselves on the same pile. And I was thinking, a youngster, I was thinking, listen what I say now. If the German would know how scared the Americans are, they will overrun them in 2 days. Because the German, they were running any direction when any shell was coming, or bombs or so on. Here they run all on pile. It's like covering one for the other. And I was standing beside doing nothing, because I heard that for years, the bombing and the shelling. And those were soldiers, was all in the 20s, and I was how old? I'm 44. How was 14? I was 14. Yeah. So I was a little bit younger than the soldier. But then also the Americans found out who we were, you see, and that was painful. The inhabitants of the village, they were treated as the inhabitants. We were again treated what we were before, apparently to me, because some incidents, but allow me to mention one.
When you say he found out, they found out who you were. Who
Yeah.
did they think you were? What does that mean? Did they think you were Jews? Did they think you were Germans? So, what is?
We did not belong to we did not belong to
foreigners.
foreign. We did not belong there.
Ausländer?
Yeah, Ausländer. Yeah, that's
Okay.
we did not belong there.
Okay.
But the incident, what I want to say, we were, I think we were, 5 or 4 youngsters standing, and there was a truck with soldiers sitting on the benches on the truck, on both sides, and eating their lunch. They had their ration boxes, they were open and so on. And we were looking, we were looking, hoping for a crumb here and there. And so one of the soldiers stands up and he has a loaf of bread in his arm, and he mentioned to us to come closer, because there was a pond of mud in between the truck and where we were standing. So we walked around the mud and came closer, and he took the bread and all over the mud. The bread slices were, and we threw ourselves, each one getting the most slices possible, and wiping our pants and eating them. And they were laughing their heads off. And then I stepped aside a little bit and thinking, these are our liberators. It was so painful, Joel. These are our liberators. And I knew what we left in here. Here we were treated like pigs like before. I mean, not in general, but you can see what they were thinking. And we thought, well, at least it could hold, and we can clean slice of bread instead of picking out of the mud. So one side, of course, was clean, but the other side was in the mud.
Right.
We shaked it and wiped and ate it, and they were laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing. So my feelings were.
How did you find your family after this? Because Because you weren't with your family at this point, were you?
No, I was by myself. Yeah,
Mhm.
no. You see, uh, my father he sent cards to the Red Cross in Switzerland,
Okay.
and there how we found each other.
Through the Red Cross.
Yeah, and we were allowed to write I think 25 words. So 25 you put your name, address, and professional, and the town where last seen.
Mhm.
Important words. And that's how we found ourselves.
What was the last town your father was in? Where did he end? Where did your father end up? What town?
But in Strasbourg, he came in Strasbourg, but there we were separate again. Yeah, yeah. I said Strasbourg. It's near Strasbourg,
Right,
near
okay.
near Strasbourg.
So at one point your whole family was in Strasbourg? Those are
Oh no, the whole farm. Never.
No.
Part four of us. We were four left on still.
Mhm.
Four.
So your
And
mother
then-
and your sister.
And myself, yeah, that was four. And then they were taken, mother and sister were taken away, and father was taken, I do not know what, for digging, they always say trenching graben, but I don't know. He never told us where.
He never talks about it?
No, we never, we knew each one has its story and their reality similar, and
Mhm.
there was not much exchanging.
Mhm.
Because we were so strange toward each other for so many months separate that we almost did not relate to each other as a family anymore.
Mhm.
The family was broken. There was no family. Between us we were fighting, fist fights for nothing. I mean between brothers.
Mhm.
So there was no family.
Mhm.
Although if there was fighting with somebody else, then there was support, yes.
Mhm.
But otherwise, no.
Mhm.
It's all different
So
talking.
Where did you finally get together with all of your family?
Well, the closest we got together here in the States.
Well, no, I mean after the war, after liberation, you met up with your family.
Yeah.
Where did you meet up with them?
Yes, that's in Paris actually. In Paris, we were with Yugoslavs, some Poles, some Serbs, I
Mhm.
think a few Italians. Maybe there were German, but yeah, there were Germans too, I think.
Mhm.
I cannot recall. Yeah, we were in a camp,
Mhm.
and life was somewhat much better. See,
Yeah, sure.
some much better. We had 3 meals. Before we only had 2, so that was and cooked meals. So that was nice.
Mhm.
In the morning we had coffee and bread. So that was the traditional, not much. But at noon we had some cooked potatoes and vegetables. So not much, but we had something.
And your whole family eventually made it there?
Yeah, there.
United there?
The 4 of us. Yeah. The others they came 3 years later. They found
Really?
them. Yeah.
Your
So
two brothers
they found them later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't know that they were alive for a
No,
long time?
we did not absolutely know nothing. No.
Mhm.
Is
How
it-
did they find you?
Well, it's through the Red Cross.
Also.
Also the Red Cross. My father, he didn't give up. I became indifferent because I was growing up and I was thinking about the springtime more than our pains that we had. I was
So were they together, the two other brothers?
no, not at all. No,
Mhm.
no, they were not together. And I even asked, and he said, "We're in Eastern Europe." He said, I said, "Where are you in Leuven?" No. He said, and they told me to keep my peace in a language much stronger than what I say. Not to ask questions.
Mhm.
So yeah, we found ourselves
Mhm.
afterward, the 4 of us, and there in the camp, there are Catholic, excuse me, Orthodox priest. He came into the camp and asked if there are people from Romania. And certainly they said yes or whatever. That they got father. He came with that priest. How the two found each other, I do not know. Anyway, and the priest was courteous, nice, and we were speaking the language, and he was speaking the language, and so on. And everything went fine. And so he asked, what's the outcome of you? And according to what father said, I think they want to send us back from where we came. And father did not want it.
He wanted to send you back to Lyova?
Well, we would have never ended up in Lyova, but Siberia, of course, because it was occupied by Russia. So, because some did try and they never ended up in Lyova. Some did go, yes, some did, and end up like my aunt. She stayed, but others that were from Lyova, that came to Lyova, that she met in Siberia, people, grown-ups, that she met that came from Lyova and were with her in Siberia. So in Lyova, no one remained. Like we were in Lyova, we would have never allowed to return to Lyova. And father probably he had some knowledge of that. And so that priest, I don't know details. I would not know, but he found us an employment. And then he said, if I find you an employment, I can get you out from here. And that was the biggest or the best news that father ever heard for those last few months. And it was us gardeners.
So if they weren't able to find you, if he wasn't able to find you employment, you would have been sent back?
Yes, yeah, because France, what do they want? They didn't want to feed us, but we were feeding ourselves if we had find an employment, and that was allowed. Anyway, according to what the priest, because he worked quite long time in order to be able to get us out, because we were many months there in that camp, and he got us out. And then, because I know when we were working there, he came quite often visiting us. And the priest, he knew what we were, and he knew who we were.
You were Jewish.
He knew. We never bragged. He didn't brag. He knew, and he brought me a nice crucifix and said, "You to say your prayer in your room." And I had no room, by the way, but anyway, he did it. He used his duty, I should say.
Yeah.
So I am respectful to Orthodox priests. Yeah, and to the Catholic nuns, I have respect for them because they were nice to us too.
Was there a name to the camp, or was there just one displaced person camp?
The names I would not know.
It was in the Paris itself.
Well, no, it was somewhat on the side, but in Paris,
Okay,
I
yeah.
think maybe side, but still Paris, yeah. The Paris during the war was empty. Well, I say empty, well, not many people were living in Paris itself, because Paris was a dangerous place until their German left it, so that was dangerous. So Paris, there were buildings, official buildings that were empty, so we were there. But of course, no heat, and it was also again through a winter time. And then in the springtime, the priest found us an employment. And it was April 1st. Yeah, because at the camp they said you can go now. Before we could not go. See, so it was 6 o'clock in the morning. He said you can go now. So we walked out, and I do not know where the priest was. Was he there or waiting or still finalizing the paperwork or what? Because he was involved in everything that was needed. And he had some kind of authority because he was in his long robe, you know. He had some respect, and French are Catholic, all, and he looked like a Catholic priest, but he was Orthodox. He was Orthodox.
I don't remember his name. Yeah. I was going to say.
Parentele Surdu. Of course I know.
Oh, all right. Well,
Surdu, Surdu. Parentele, that means the father Surdu. Surdu.
Surdu.
C'est S-U-R-D-U. Surdu. Surdu. I never saw it written, but that's the way we call it. He was, he, Surdu. U ends with a U.
That's how it's pronounced.
S-U-R-D-U.
Yeah.
L.
That's
L or R?
R,
Surdu.
Surdu, yeah.
Father Surdu.
And he
Yeah.
was Romanian.
He was Romanian.
So he spoke Romanian.
Yeah, and he spoke French because he
Right.
came to study in France,
Ah,
and he never went back.
okay. So he was specifically trying to help people of Romanian heritage?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, we were the only family.
Right, right.
There were Serbian, but Romanian, we end up all by ourselves. There were no more other families. And after Berlin, we were separate and separate and separate again until we ended on Strasbourg. I cannot recall that there was another Romanian. There were a lot of Polish families in Strasbourg. Polish was many, but Romanian I do not know. And I do not know how we slipped through and end up in Strasbourg, because if we would have be sent to the Eastern Front, which they were needed as well as the Western Front, the Russians would have caught us, you see. And we were Romanian, so we were one of theirs. So, but here we were on the other side, and the American wanted to deliver us to the Russian because we belonged to the other side. And father, I saw no difference, but father, he tried. Anyway, the Parentele Surdu, he did it all. Allowed us to stay in France. And then we moving around free like we had our papers done. We were considered as refugees in France, refugees. There's refuge. So we got papers for 3 months, and then they had to be renewed, and we forgot. We didn't know. We couldn't read the French. And then it was already 4 months, and suddenly father realized or so that, and so what do we do? What do we do? We have to go to the police station and let them know to extend it. And I don't know if father found somebody that spoke German, because so father spoke to him German spoke in French, and tried to excuse ourselves the best we could, that we could not read or we didn't notice, and so, and all the police, they just was listening, and we were not,
They didn't care.
yeah, another 3 months. And then, that was, for I do not know how long it was, every 3 months. But we were more careful then, you see, we went a day before or so. And they were doing it right away, with no, just extend and stamp, extend to that date, that's all.